I hope everyone had a fabulous new year and are excited for 2022. I know Ryan and I are because that means NFL playoffs right around the corner. And one team just locked up the division, and that's going to be the team we talked about today, the Cincinnati Bengals. They beat the Kansas City Chiefs with a thrilling 20-yard field goal. Actually, it might have even been 19 yards. Almost as sure a thing as it can get. But we're going to talk about the game. We're going to talk about the Bengals and our season preview and our prediction for the Bengals and how wrong we were, just as I think everyone was going into this team, because I think the Bengals are the shock of the season with how they've been playing. But before we get into that, Ryan and I, we want to thank everyone for joining and subscribing to our channel last year. We love building our community, doing these videos for you guys, other like-minded football folks. And so I love to kind of share with you with a goal that Ryan and I have of getting to 400 subscribers by the Super Bowl, which is February 13th, I believe. Yeah, February 13th.
Yeah,
yep. So I'd love to try and get to 400 subscribers. So if you have not already, subscribe to this channel, like this video, share this with your Bengals and Chiefs friends, comment and let us know your thoughts and how you think both these teams are going to do in the playoffs. And Ryan, let's get into it. So we both had the Bengals going 5-12. And I want to make a shout out to, I believe it was someone that commented on our season preview. I think his was John Wick. I think I remember him saying. And the comment was, if the Bengals can do well in the first 5 games, they will win 10 games this season. And he could not have been more correct. So shout out to you. That was amazing prediction. Much better than Ryan and I.
Hey. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
John Wick knows all.
John Wick knows all. So.
The boogeyman. But just this team in general, Ja'Marr Chase is having one of the best rookie seasons that we have seen in a long time. I think now with this performance today of just a measly 11 catches, 266 yards, 3 touchdowns, that puts him over the see if I did my math correct. Over 1,400 yards for the season. That puts him at 13 touchdowns, and really just shows how elusive this offense is. Because Joe Burrow's he's only at 4,500 yards.
Yeah.
Well, I only at 4,500 yards. He's at 4,500 yards. But T. Higgins is a 1,000-yard receiver. Tyler Boyd is over 800 yards receiving as well. It is not like it is a one-man show in Ja'Marr Chase. As well, on top of that, Joe Mixon has over 1,200 rushing yards on the season and is the second in the league in rushing.
Yeah.
Kind of thanks to Derrick Henry being hurt. Other than that, he would be third. But still, because looking back on our preview, we talked about how explosive this offense could be. But the real thing, I think, on the reason why they have been so successful, I want to hear your thoughts on this, is how this defense has been. You specifically targeted Trey Hendrickson as a key sign-up, and he arguably could be one of the biggest free agent signings of this offseason.
Yeah, so Trey Hendrickson, it was a huge signing. He's a Pro Bowler. I want to say he's 3rd or 4th in the league in sacks with, I think 13 and a half or 14 and a half now. But, I mean, it's just been a really solid defensive end for them. And they kind of did, in my opinion, what the Chiefs have done to some teams in the past. Maybe not to quite the consistent level, but kind of what they did was they go in there with an offense that can really score, and they make teams have to keep up, which somewhat eliminates the run game and allows their elite pass, I don't say elite pass rush, but they do have a Pro Bowl pass rusher, and their defensive line and front seven is the strength of that defense. And they just kind of make teams have to throw, and then they get after the quarterback and create good situations for themselves. And that's kind of what they did today against the Kansas City Chiefs. We're recording this on Sunday, even though it'll probably end up going out on Tuesday. But the Chiefs were up 28-14 with just over 2 minutes left in the first half. Bengals go down, kick a field goal right before half, and then a minute and a half into the second half, they throw a 70-yard bomb to Ja'Marr Chase. So, and then just like that, they go back-to-back, 28-24, back in the game. So, they really have just been able to put themselves in situations to win, but also put pressure on other teams to have to make plays because their offense is so elite. Like you said, 2 1,000-yard receivers, a 1,000-yard rusher, and a 4,000-yard passer. That's one of the first times I think that's ever been done in NFL history. So this Bengals team is young, and they just clinched the division. And the scary part is
Yeah.
they really have room for improvement. They can really improve that secondary and offensive line. I think those are going to be the two main focuses for them coming up in the draft. But I mean, they are very scary and very formidable. A team I
Yeah.
do not want to
Well,
face
especially with
in
the Bengals, too,
January.
because if you look at
So
who the other teams are in their division, especially talking about winning future divisions from here on out, they, excuse me, they match
yeah,
up well against some of the other teams in their division. Now, Ravens had been decimated with injuries, especially in the secondary, so that's why they were able to throw all over the field uh, against them when they played. But they still match up well against a Ravens team
yeah,
who is not a strong passing unit, relies heavily on the run game. And with the Bengals, they can keep up the stud run defense as it has been all year. That matched up well against them, while then having a little bit of a weaker of the weaker secondary, and statistically, because the Ravens won't burn them nearly as much that way. Same with the Browns as well. The Browns have some things that they need to figure out on the passing side of the ball, and then the Steelers. Who knows really kind of where the Steelers are going? The Steelers have exceeded our expectations this year as well. But I think a lot of that has to do with just the great coaching that's been going on with Mike Tomlin. But there are also a lot of stud athletes in Pittsburgh as well. So this is going to be a really exciting division. But one I think that the Bengals can continue to win more often as well, just with the way they've been playing it and how young they are.
yeah. No, and like Joe Burrow's still on a rookie contract. Jamar Chase is still on a rookie contract. And I don't want to say T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd are replaceable, but T. Higgins is still on a rookie contract. But even when those guys do end up, I guess those contracts end up expiring, I think those guys are going to be very fairly priced, that they'll be able to keep this group together. And I mean, they're young, and
Yeah,
they can put together a run here of 4 or 5 years where they'll really be able to compete and be able to
yeah,
put good talent all across the board. Uh, so, and kind of like you said, I think that division, Cleveland, we had the highest expectations for, but Cleveland, kind
hmm
of similar to Baltimore, had a lot of injuries, especially on the offensive side of the ball, and they just haven't been able to quite keep up with some of the other teams. But Pittsburgh is going to be in disarray, and the Ravens need to get healthy again for them to even be close
yeah.
to what they can be. So, I I think the AFC has a rising monster
hmm
brewing in Southern Ohio in the Cincinnati Bengals. Um, so with this win, with this win over Kansas City, that clinches a division. So they're going to have a home playoff game. But Cincinnati or Kansas City now has to go to Denver next week
hmm
to keep the 2 seed. So this win puts
Yeah,
Tennessee back in the number one driving seat in the AFC, which is kind of
yeah.
crazy to think about the roller
hmm
coaster that they've gone on. But what do you think of Cincinnati's playoff chances, and kind of where you think that everything will end up after this
Man, who fucking
big
knows?
win?
I mean, sorry for swearing, but I mean, really have no idea because you're telling me we're going to do one of our game previews next week. Probably the biggest game of the year is going to be the Raiders Chargers or Chargers at the Raiders next week, and that's literally a win and get in situation for that team.
Mm-hmm.
One of those teams. I mean, if the Chargers get in, which I think they can, I think they beat the Chargers earlier this year. If they get in, I mean, the Chargers can compete with the best of them. And it's not like Tennessee, depending on when Derrick Henry gets back, if he is able to get back from his foot injury, Tennessee is vulnerable. Yeah, they have had some great wins, but they still have some vulnerability against some of these big teams that
Mm-hmm.
that can shut down their passing game because their running game has suffered a little bit with Derrick Henry being out. Just kind of on just the consistent key threat of that. But with Cincinnati, though, it's just going to be the team that is most consistent, I think, that comes out of this AFC alive. If you look at all of these teams, they have just been inconsistent. Every team that is going to be in the playoffs has had a moment in the or had a stretch of games in the season where they looked unbeatable. Tennessee started the season hot. Now with Derrick Henry getting hurt, now they are still a 1 seed and they are still looking really good. Nothing against them. Kansas City started off weak, but then they went on this 6-7 game stretch, and they are still looking really good. But they went on the 6-7 game stretch where they looked unbeatable, especially towards the end of that stretch. The Patriots the same way, Bills the same way, Colts the same way, and the Colts still technically haven't clinched a playoff spot, but they are going to Jacksonville in Week 18. You got to play the game, but if I'm a betting man, I'm betting on the Colts in that game, and Jonathan Taylor to run for over 1,000 yards in that game. But that's what's going to be interesting about the AFC and with the Bengals. Like, I think they do have a shot. I think anyone has a shot on any given Sunday. It's just going to be who comes in, makes the least amount of mistakes. And unlike with the NFC, where I think that there is a clear-cut favorite, because with the Packers being the most consistent of the teams, and they're playing right now as we're recording on Sunday night, so I haven't seen how they've started the game against the Vikings. But it should be a game they should win. I'm pretty sure they host the Bears. No, they're going to Detroit next week. They might not even play some of their starters in that one. Whereas I said, like, they're just consistent. All the other teams have issues with consistency. But the Bengals can be consistent and make the least amount of mistakes. Jamar Chase can have a 75-yard touchdown every single game. It seems in big moments, it seems like he definitely can make some amazing plays. That's what's crazy too about it. He's got 1,400 receiving yards. About 300 of those yards are just long touchdown catches. Like, it just shows his absolute, like, he is so elusive. But I mean, just my final thought: the Bengals, they really could. I mean, they can beat Kansas City. I think they can beat. I think they can beat Cincinnati. I think Tennessee. I think they match up well against them. Same thing against the Bills, and especially the Patriots as well. I think they match up well against the Patriots for sure. So we'll have to see kind of where they end up. I think they're playing the Browns to finish off the season. That should be a win, and I'm pretty sure it is in Cleveland. So I'm kind of curious to see how they go about that game, and if Joe Burrow plays. I know he got banged up a little bit on the second to last play.
Yeah. But other than that, I don't really have too much else to add. I agree. I think anybody in the AFC who can just get on a little bit of a streak here and just play consistently, I think has a really solid shot to come out of the AFC. So I think that's going to do it for this episode of the Tracy Take. Thank you guys again, and we hope everybody had a happy new year. If you have not already, please go ahead and like and subscribe and leave a comment.